So Justin, we've been talking about all these topics that are so important for us humans. I'd love for you to share what are the main differences you find between the topics of purpose and meaning.
Yeah, well, so purpose and meaning, there's some important differences here. So when we talk about purpose, the definition is often why something exists or why do we exist? And in the modern world, working with a lot of leaders and professionals, oftentimes when we talk about purpose, we're often referring to things that are based in the future, more goal-based type of achievements. Things like I want to get humans to Mars, or I want to build a center for my community. Okay, so all that's very wonderful. It gives us a strong sense of purpose in life. But then meaning is a little bit different. Meaning is more present moment focused. It's about the value that we derive from certain experiences. So some examples could be, you're helping an elderly person cross the street and you get a sense of meaning from that interaction in that moment. Or you're sitting around the dinner table and you're appreciating your loved ones and you remember that moment and there's a sense of meaning derived from that. Or even just simply watching a sunset, a beautiful sunset at the end of the day, all these things can give us a really strong sense of meaning that comes from the present moment. So very, very powerful purpose and meaning, these discussions.
Thank you very much for sharing that. In your work as an executive coach, supporting leaders around the world, what are the main challenges you find with them trying to find their purpose and meaning?
Yeah, well, first off, I mean, doing purpose coaching or bringing people on experiences to unplug from the day to day to be able to explore a deeper sense of purpose and meaning is one of my favorite things to do, and is for so many of our coaches as well. And one of the things that we find as a common purpose trap is that oftentimes we equate purpose with a sense of self worth. Right? So as we go through different phases in our lives as human beings, our purpose and our meaning will often change based on what's happening, right? So if you're in your early 30s, you're just building your career, your strong sense of purpose is providing for your family, helping your family have the best possible conditions in education. But then that family moves out of the house, and all of a sudden you look back and you say, hey, my purpose is about leaving a great legacy on the world. But in those periods of transition, oftentimes when people don't feel like they have a strong or a clear sense of purpose and meaning, the purpose trap is around that self worth. Like if I don't have purpose, if I don't have meaning right now, that has something to do with my self worth. Right? So if we can actually decouple those things around purpose and self worth, we can discover a more deeper and meaningful sense of purpose. And I want to share a personal story around this. So this is actually one of my biggest challenges as a human being. I realized that throughout most of my early career, I had some epic failures and some really challenging circumstances. And I had those moments where I was just in the fetal position and I was pursuing these big, grandiose endeavors in my career. And they weren't quite working out because they weren't uniquely aligned with my gifts. It was more of an ego sense of purpose that I was pursuing. And I started to track back and say, okay, what is the source of this? What is driving me to make these decisions and participate in this behavior? And I realized that a lot of it lived within my lineage and that it was something that my father had grappled with throughout his life. And my father was amazing, by the way. He had a heart of gold. I absolutely loved him as a human being. And but there was one day I remember very vividly in my life where he argued with me for 45 minutes on the way to the airport about whether I was successful or not. And he's like, wait, people understand what you do. People pay you for what you do. Like, do you need money? Are you okay? And I kept saying, no, I'm all good, Dad. I'm all good, Dad. And then I remember arriving at the airport, and obviously there was a really luxurious Range Rover in front of us. And he said, I'll leave you with this. When you have one of those one day, then I'll know you're successful. And so I realized that that's a lot of where that self worth sourced from. And so when my father passed away several years later, I remember as he was passing away, I asked myself this question. As my father is dying, what is dying within me? And it was this lack of self worth. And it led to another question, which was how would I be showing up in the world if my worthiness and my success was never in question? And so I think that's a powerful question for all human beings to contemplate. What would I be up to if my worthiness and my success were never in question? And it fundamentally changed everything for me.
That's awesome. It's amazing. Thanks for sharing. Now, I think it would be very useful if you can share some practical tools and exercises that can help this process of finding and implementing purpose and meaning.
Yeah. So once we start to decouple that self worth with that sense of purpose, um, the most important thing we need to start doing is listening within ourselves, right? And so one of the challenges we have as modern human beings is that our mind is churning out over 6,000 thoughts a day. So what our mind is providing us is often a bit unreliable, and also we have everybody else's opinions about what we should be doing as well. So it takes a lot of courage to inquire within ourselves and just listen for that deeper voice of wisdom within us that ultimately knows what's best for us, what we're uniquely designed to do, and what our sacred mission is in this life, and to be able to listen to that and follow that. So that's the first thing, is you can connect to that deeper voice of wisdom within yourself. And then the second thing is that as you start to let go of this whole notion of, self-worth being equated with purpose, you start to realize as a human being that you're really here to be of service to others. That the true joy that we're all seeking and looking for is about being of great service to others. So, one of the simplest practices that I often recommend is you can put in your calendar every morning a reminder with this simple question: how can I be of greatest service today? And be surprised by what's showing up. So we can have this big sense of purpose, like we want to build a company and solve a major world problem. But there's also that sense of purpose and meaning in just meeting whatever's showing up each day. And it's the way that you treat the barista at the coffee shop. It's seeing somebody struggling and lending them, just a few minutes of your time just to let them know that you care, and showing a bit of compassion and listening deeply with empathy. That's purpose and meaning. So when you ask that question each and every day, you realize that every moment of every day you have a purpose. And no matter what your hierarchy is, no matter what kind of leader you are, whether you're a leader in an organization, whether you're an employee in an organization, your every interaction matters, and that you're the leader that the world's been waiting for. And each moment you can show up and you can offer yourself with the best intention. And then knowing that in doing that and that pure intention of how you're showing up, that you're also inspiring others to do the same.